Well, it's time to finally do our very first oil change ever on this 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. Now I know you're thinking, oil change video, how simple can you be? But you know what? Everybody has a first time to do it, and every vehicle might be slightly different. Filter location might be different. Drain plug location might be different, might be covering it, whatever. We're gonna go over all that. So if you have a 2023, or this should also be for the 2024s, and I believe 22 is the first year of this body style. We're gonna go over everything you need for the oil change, size of tools, things like that, all your basic stuff. So where are we with this Jeep? First, let me show you in here. Obviously, you can see the odometer, it is at 4,530 miles, but we have hit the 6-month mark. So we've had this vehicle for 6 months, and they do recommend oil changes every 6 months, or I think it's 6,000 miles. I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna have to check the manual to see what Dodge, or I'm sorry, not Dodge, but Jeep recommends. Now, normally I will say this, I usually prefer to do my very first oil change much sooner. Like on my Challenger, I did it with like, I don't know, 1,000 miles on it or under 1,000 miles on it, because it is a break-in oil. So the oil in here is factory oil. But you know, I kind of want to do this more along the lines of what majority of regular people are going to do, because most people honestly aren't going to do early oil changes. Okay, so with that, so one thing to know, also this is the 3.6 liter Pentastar. So if you have the V8 model, obviously that's going to be a bit different. One nice thing about these 3.6 Pentastars is the oil filter is up top, which if you can see, the cap is right there. So it's much easier to change, much easier to get to. In fact, this is the replacement filter. As you can see, it is not your typical canister style. It is just literally the element. And with these, you do normally get an O-ring, and that O-ring goes on the cap. Now, if you need any of this stuff, I will have links to all the proper items that you need for this oil change. So this is MO-349 is the oil filter. Pretty much the same for all the 3.6 Pentastars. It's the same one I used to use on my 2012 Avenger. Now this Jeep calls for 0W20 oil. So since I use Pennzoil Platinum or Ultra Platinum on all my vehicles, my Challenger and my Ram, I just thought I'd keep with that. And it does say it is a 5-quart capacity, so I just have 5 quarts here. Now one other thing I'm going to do is I am going to take an oil sample and send off for analysis to see what all is in the break-in oil. That is going to be a separate video. And then one other thing I'm going to do is the cap on the oil filter is a plastic. And one thing I learned with my Avenger is it kind of wears out and then eventually gets hard to take off. So they make an aftermarket metal one. It's aluminum. I'm also going to replace this. That will also be its own video, because between this and the sample, that is more specific to the 3.6 Pentastar, not necessarily the 23 Jeep. And there's a lot more vehicles that run this engine. We already talked about the oil filters on top, the drain plug obviously on the bottom, so you will need an oil drain pan. And then underneath, there is a shield blocking the bottom of the engine. Now, one nice thing, it looks like, I took a look underneath there, and it looks like there's just a small little plastic insert in the middle of the big shield that shows a little picture of an oil, or oil canister, whatever. So it looks like you just have to take that one little plastic thing off. I'll show you that in just a moment. Now that has 2 different nuts on it that I could see. It had a 7mm and a 10mm and a 13mm. I don't know what size the drain plug needs yet, because I haven't taken that shield off. Oh, and also with the oil filter, the cap takes this is a 15/16 inch socket, and it is a little bit tight here. As you can see, the air intake is kind of in a way, but it just barely fits on there. So let's get underneath here and get that shield off. Okay, we're going underneath, and you can see we have this shield, which is some kind of like a fabric-y material, because it's still wet. I just washed it. And if you go in, you can see there's that little oval plastic there. And as you can see, it's got the little picture of the oil canister, and it looks like that one right there is a 13mm, and that nut is a 10mm. It looks like it just hinges over there. So with that, let me go ahead and take it off. Oh, and looks like there is a little washer here, so you don't actually have to unscrew it all the way. And now you can tell we're held up here. I don't know why they're using 2 different bolts, and they're 2 different sizes. Looks like you want to take the 13 millimeter off, and then this one just loosens up. And there you can see we have the drain plug. So now let's see, what size is this? Okay, and the drain plug is also 13 millimeter. Okay, so one thing to be aware of, and that's why these simple videos still need to be made, is this doesn't pull out, so it's going to get in your oil pan if you're like me and you don't have it on a lift. Obviously, Chrysler Techs will put this on a lift and it'll just hang down. So we'll probably just move it like that to get our oil pan in. Let's get this loosened. And that's not on there too tight, so that's good. I will say this is weird. Usually by this point you can hand untighten these drain plugs, and on this one, man, even at this point I still need the socket for it. That is very odd. So trying to get this oil sample, I made a little bit of a mess. That's why you always want to have cardboard underneath. And again, I'm getting under this Jeep without lifting it at all. No ramps, no nothing. It is completely, as you can see, tires on the ground. So had I lifted this up, it would be a little bit easier and a little less messy trying to get this oil sample. So I'm going to let that drain out now, and we'll be back to finish it up. All right, so while the oil is draining, now's a good time to just go ahead and replace the oil filter, because, you know, might as well let as much oil drip out as can. That's one reason I like to do these oil changes. So, again, we just get this 15/16 socket on there. Probably need your extension, or at least I do. And that's on there snug, but not too tight. All right. Just looks like that's loose. These rear-wheel drive cars hopefully won't get things too messy. Nope, not bad at all. And here it is. Nice thing about this oil filter is it's very easy to inspect it because there's no canister around it. You got the element right there, and you can take a really close good look at it. All right, so you just want to grab this filter and just kind of have to yank it out because it does snap into place. So we're going to set this to the side. All right, and we take out our new oil filter and O-ring. So if you're reusing this cap, or even if you have the other cap that I'm about to replace with, you're going to have to replace O-rings. So I just get like a little flathead screwdriver and pull that off. And then you just stick your new O-ring on there. But since I'm putting on an aluminum cap, let's go to that. So then this just snaps right in. Okay, now one thing I do like to do, and I've always done this even with the Avenger when I had it, because I always did my own oil changes, is just like with the oil filter gasket on a normal side, just want to throw a little bit of fresh, clean oil on this O-ring as well. Normally I would do this before we put it on, but this cap actually came with this O-ring on already. And then just stick it back in the hole. Then once it gets to the O-ring part, that's where it gets a little bit tighter, so you'll have to get your socket back out. Okay, and then once you come to a stop, you don't want to like go crazy torquing this, so just a little bit and we're good. All right, oil filter's changed, and we've given it probably at least an hour, hour and a half to drain, which is enough time. I mean, compared to shop's dealer, they're gonna drain it for like a couple minutes. So let's get underneath and tie it all back up. So you can see it's still dripping pretty good, so that's why I like to wait a while. Man, it's dripping pretty quick. I usually like to wait till it's dripping much slower than that. Yeah, we're gonna give it 10 more minutes. Okay, I gave it about another 10, 12 minutes. Hopefully it's slowed down. Tiny bit. That's good enough. I mean, I ain't got all day. There's storms coming. I gotta get this Jeep back in the garage. Okay, drain plug in, and man, I'm telling you, I've never had a drain plug that's this hard to get in. I barely got 2 turns and I already need a socket. That is probably torqued good enough. You want it snug, and as you can see, it's just a little past the original mark. So that feels good there. Now, raise this up. Get this back started. Alright, that's in there snug. Now this last bolt for the shield here. And these don't have to be tight. I mean, these are literally just holding up plastic shields, so that's it. Alright, bottom side all done. Top side all done. So last step, let's fill up some oil. Gonna use our funnel. And we got our full synthetic 0W20. Alright, 5 quarts dumped in. Alright, now we want to go in the car. So just turn it on without starting. Okay, now let's cycle through, see if we could find our oil info. Gauge summary, there we go, oil life. So this thing said we actually had 39% oil life. So now here we just hold OK to reset. And the OK button right here. Hold that. And we're back to 100%. If that doesn't work, the other trick with it on, you just pump the gas pedal or accelerator 3 times within, you know, a few seconds, just 1, 2, 3, and that should reset it all. So that's how it works in majority of at least Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep vehicles. And now I'm going to put it on the gauge summary, and as they have you do in oil change places, start it up really quick. Let the oil circulate. Make sure you got oil pressure. Oh my gosh, all these messages about nannies that are enabled. Okay, so we got 33 PSI, which is about normal for when you're idling. Everything appears to be good. Let's turn it off. And now let's check the oil level, make sure we're good there. All right, let's grab our oil stick, and I always like to pull it out, clean it up, dip it in, and then get the reading. So it looks like it's right at the bottom of the checkered mark. So I think it could use another half a quart or so. But again, the capacity according to the manual and everything says it's 5 quarts. All right, so there you have it. That is how you do an oil change on a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with the 3.6 liter Pentastar. Pretty easy, pretty simple to do. Save yourself some money, do it yourself, plus you know you do a good job. I can't tell you how many times I've had claims and issues when I've worked in insurance or in collision shops of places that screw something up as easy as an oil change. But plus, like, we got an oil sample, which again, I'm gonna do another video to go over the analysis of what we find in the break-in oil. So hopefully this helped if you've never attempted to do an oil change before, or if you are experienced and just want to see if there's anything different about the Jeeps. Hopefully this explained that to you. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you at the drag strip.